Welcome to Season 4 of the Knack for Business podcast.
Question for the audience. Are you stuck trying to grow your business but unsure how to push past fear, self-doubt to reach your next level? Wayne will talk about breaking limiting beliefs and why the right coach, not just a well-meaning friend, can accelerate growth and how to stay ahead as AI reshapes the coaching world. Guest today is Wayne Pratt, both from Motivate8U and Freshly Brewed Coaching, the new book that's been released. Wayne is a speaker, author, and life coach who has been helping other people achieve their dreams for over 20 years, before it was even called coaching. He lives on a lake near Kingston, Ontario, Canada, with his amazing wife, Elizabeth, and is the proud dad of his daughter, Bethany, and a grandson, Renly. He is a friendly, funny, and easy to work with person. Wayne, how are you, sir? And welcome back to the other side of the desk of this podcast. And do you have a favorite quote or saying, sir?
I have about 7, but the one I picked today was, if you believe you can't, or you believe you can, either way, you're right. Henry Ford.
So, writing a book, this is actually your second book, but this your third book. You hid one for me. What's going on here? So you actually wrote the first book with Percy Barr. What was the title of that one?
It was called The Lost Secrets of a Life Coach.
Most interesting. So your third book, though, your most recent one, who's your co-author?
My co-author is Matt Hawksley. I'll show you the book. I'm rather proud of it.
Crafting a Bold New You. For those that can't see this but can hear this, there's a coffee cup with the wording on the cup that says "Crafting a Bold New You," titled "Freshly Brewed Coaching." But what inspired you to fire up this book?
That is such a great question. Actually, one of the doulas of this was, in fact, Bernie. This has been a hobby horse of mine for several years now. And many times I have talked to people after the interview, the recorded interview, and we talk coaching and life and whatever. And I mentioned on half a dozen times or more that I thought coaching is being used only by the C-suite, not Main Street. And Matt Hawksley was a guest, and he was actually in my town working at a university. And it was so exciting. We have guests from Scotland and Texas and Vancouver, and I just could not meet a guest that was only an hour away. So I met him and I asked him this question, and I point blank, do you agree with me? And he said, yes, I agree with you. Coaching could be used for the Main Street. And
so the Knack for Business podcast was also another driving agent in this whole story?
very birth.
So how many coaches do you figure we've interviewed?
700. I'm convinced. Bernie didn't want me to get one job. He spoke to every coach in North America.
So you actually have a good profile or sense of what people are doing out there from different
Yes.
coaching perspectives, ones that
Yes.
you're familiar with and ones that you're
Yes.
not. But this book is offering something more to the business owner. Why should they not ignore the book? What is the kernel of truth for them inside this book?
Actually, the nugget they should take came from my co-writer, Matt. And the neat thing is he was very inspired by Who Moved My Cheese and the manager, the 1 Minute Manager. The bottom line is he wanted to tell a story. There's something called didactic teaching, which is actually the teaching. And it can be useful, but it can be deadly, deadly dry. So he put in, I even found out a term for it. It's called a business fable. Isn't that great? A business fable.
I like that.
Long ago in a land far, far away. Anyway, so that we actually, the point of the title is, can you imagine 2 people who were in a coffee shop? And by the way, our publisher wouldn't print the picture we wanted, which was of a coffee shop, and that's another story. But interestingly enough, 2 people in a coffee shop who were, in this case, having a coffee with each other because the barista said we should meet. And we decided that we were going to rehearse our product for the big city, and but we were going to do it there live with real bodies because it has a different energy. So in the real world, we invented a half a dozen people: a bank manager, a tailor, a electrician, a barista, and we actually told the story through them and how they benefited from the coaching and how they heard it. And it became, I think, very powerful. The coaching is more than helping your 9-year-old be better at soccer.
So if someone cracks open this book and they're just going in for a quick scan, what's the one chapter that you figure that would and just capture them, just literally capture them and put them into our moment of rapture, so to speak?
I can honestly tell you, if we haven't caught you by the end of the first chapter, we're not going to catch you. But I believe the story is compelling and there are notes to take with you that rely to you. That's the part that I'm excited about because the notes are universal. I mean, I've talked to life coaches and business coaches and finance coaches and relationship coaches. Coaching is always three things: clarity, accountability, and cheerleading. I don't care what niche you're in, it's always those three things. So I can help people develop those three things right now and equip them for later as well.
So if you have a chum that you have to share pints with or go fishing with, etc., what's the difference between having a buddy and a coach?
It's a very, very good question. I hear often, oh, my best friend's my coach. Well, no, he isn't. I'll tell you why. Because if he's been your friend for a long time, he is not going to discuss your blind spots with you very likely. Okay, he's not willing to hurt your feelings. He's not going to tell you, you know you're a jerk, right? And your clients think so. He's just not going to have that conversation. And the second part of that is most buddies can't be mutually that honest with each other. And that is why a coach who is not paid to be your friend is such a useful tool. And for 100 an hour, I will be your friend, just so you know.
So beliefs and blind spots. It's interesting you should touch on blind spots. What are the typical blind spots people have that you've uncovered over your last 20 years? Where do people get kind of lost?
So it goes back to the quote, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. They're worried about what their 7th grade gym teacher told them, what they heard from their parents, even what an ex-wife told them. They are trapped by a dialogue that may not actually still be true. And that's the biggest blind spot.
So you get them past the roadblock where here's your blind spot. You get them past that. Usually at that point in time, it's taking a lot of energy. How do you get them to the next part where they're actually acting in a direction that's beneficial?
This took me a full year to learn. I've always thought I was quite brilliant. And I thought I had all this advice to offer. And I took a year-long course and I beat it into my head. They have the answers. They're not really interested in yours. Your job is to pull out their answers. And that is the key. This is the exciting point in the heart of all coaching. They have to tell you what's important. Even if you nudge, even if you ask a great question, at the bottom line, it has to be something they want to do and tell you with their mouth that they want to do it. Or it's just good advice that goes with the rest on a file.
No, I pause and reflect here for a second, and the reason I do that is that sometimes I might want something, but do I really want it? Right. So
Mhm.
it's sort of like, do I want a cottage? Well, that sounds fantastic. Till such time as I now have to keep the cottage up and running. Aside from the cost, the expense of owning it and property tax and so forth, and it's all for the goal of having an enjoyable place or a sailing boat, right? If you've never, looks fun till you actually have to maintain the ship or the vessel. How do you find the balance between I really like that and no, you don't. You actually want this.
Dennis Waitley wrote a book called Someday I'll, which is really brilliant. Someday I'll, someday I'll, someday I'll. And the key is actually knowing your 3 to 5 year goals. Job one, not their 5-day goals, not your wife's 5-day goals, not your teacher's 5-day goals, 5-year goals, your 5-year goals. The second thing is a season. What can I do in 90 days to equip that 5-year goal? If you can't do it in 90 days, it's not a goal, it's a wish. If you can't do something in 90 days, it's a wish. And here's the third part. This is what you mentioned, action steps. What can I do tomorrow or this week, depending on the day you decide, to make this happen? And if there's no action step, it's a wish.
So I guess for having a coach then is there's somebody that goes and says, where you at with X? And if you remember your teen years, none of us ever enjoyed having someone going, so where are you at with this? Like, the free spirited soul tends not to want to be in that space because you're pinned down, right? How do you get a person to understand that commitment? So, is this more a no pain, no gain adage, or what? Like, what's going on? How do you get them to uh, enjoy the accountability as opposed to regret it?
Man, you've uncovered the biggest single secret about what is keeping our industry back. And that is because at the end of the day, they think their coach is either going to be a drill sergeant or being in the vice principal's office. It's not going to be fun. I want to. I should have. I didn't. Nah. That's not good coaching. That is why. The bottom line is the coach has to ask questions that get inside your mind to really understand you, and so that you're not being beat up. You're only doing what you want and what you agreed to. That's why coaching works, not more scolding. We can get that anywhere.
Yes. Well, there's some people that enjoy scolding, but
That's a different podcast.
that's a different podcast and a different therapy session, so to speak. Which brings us me to the next point. We just cut a joke, and we bantered some humor back and forth. Does that help using humor when you're connecting with people? Is that a part of the toolkit? Is that part of the way of conducting business? Is it wise? Is it smart? What?
Is a very interesting story. One, I'm on the do not contact list of every HR professional in the entire country. Okay, because sometimes humor could be misunderstood. Somebody once said that my hero would be Robin Williams if he was a life coach. And the neat thing is how he'd know when he went too far was going too far. So, yes, it can be very, very useful, but it has to be done with a generous spirit. It can't be about attacking. It can't be about just putting down others. I use irony a lot, but even I get lost. I'm also very, very good at reading body language and knowing when to apologize.
Clenched fist is usually a big indicator. So when has humor actually turned a coaching situation from, my gosh, this is hard to spin that person around, to, well, that was easier, and it's now made everything almost like a grease to gears. When's that happen for you?
This is exciting. We've had a lot of people that talk about things like neuroplasticity, where they're actually talking about stuff that happens in the brain. And the simple rule is if it fires together, it's wired together. Humor creates a different sense in you that makes it more real. And if you make it more real, it's more memorable. And if it's more memorable, it comes back quicker. This stuff can be done in a lab. This isn't just an opinion. And that's why.
So in the advent of technology and coaching, like, it used to be a time where it would be in person. Now it can be done online. And that technology, and we've seen different products show up on our doorstep where it assesses is a person happy, just because it's listening to the chatter. And I think that's kind of been peeled back a bit because of privacy concerns, if people understand what's going on. But how do you see AI impacting the overall coaching process and the industry at large?
Actually, when I am on the other side of the table and I'm one of the hosts, this is a question that comes up a lot about me talking about their industry. And interesting enough, I think it's going to have a huge impact and may eliminate low-end coaching. Now, I will also, and that is the stuff where you'd be willing to pay $30 a month, but not 200. For 200, you want it made for you. You want it tailored. It's why you can buy a $90 suit or a $700 suit. They're not the same product. The biggest shock is you can actually Meta. I was in my inbox and Meta said, "Do you want to be coached?" So I actually typed it in and listened, and it wasn't wrong. It didn't connect with me on an intellectual or personal basis, but it wasn't wrong. And here's the future. The future is using AI to craft the lifting, the heavy lifting of the part that isn't relevant, so that the coaching that is one-on-one and important and dials in is going to happen. So there'll be, I think, a couple of tiers. There'll be a $50 a month coach, and there'll be a $500 a month coach. And how much AI you get will frame that. And by the way, again, if the human isn't driving this process, you're buying a large language model. And I'm not so sure that's going to make you everything you could be, want, or have.
Most interesting. So your book, I'm just going to swing back to the book for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the intended audience? Is it the mom at home? Is it the student in high school? Is it the corporate dude going, or corporate lady who's going, heavy sigh, I'm looking to stage left, or they're being forced out? Or is it someone who's just saying, ta-da, I've got an idea and I want to put boots in the ground and get a business going?
Cool. Actually, there's a term I really like that I don't use very often because people think it's offensive, and it's not. I want to reach the ham sandwich crowd. That's not the guy in the $80 steak or the caviar. It's the guy who just has a decent ham sandwich um, on the girder at work. So the bottom line is, in Main Street, okay, you got to be what you could be, the best you could be. And most people are trapped by what they've been doing or what they think they could be doing rather than what they would like to do. And we actually showed in the book that you don't burn it down, quit your job, and become a ballerina. You actually learn what you have learned to make what you want better. And yes, that's a scary thought. I'm 200
Well,
pounds, and me in a tutu is a scary, scary thought. But anyway.
I think both of us, yeah, doing pirouettes, no, 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 and in tights, no, two no's
So
right there, and it goes from there. Sorry, a lot of AI.
But so specifically, the guy I want to reach is the business owner that is on autopilot. He owns a hardware store, maybe even a barber shop. I don't care what he's a business owner, and he's trapped by his story, doing the same things the same way. And that is a guy who I believe I can release into being, doing, and having more.
When you mention this, being and doing more, it almost takes me back to some other conversations that have been had, where a person goes, okay, can you walk away outside of your business while your business functions? In other words, can the wheels of the bus still keep going? You don't have to be in the driver's seat, or you get more buses, so to speak. So you have more wheels on the road, which means you can't be all places at all times. So is this something, a conversation that deals with scale up? Is it something that deals with having standard operating procedures? Is this something about talking about legacy or better yet, going back to the 5-year goal, in 5 years, I'm looking to sell this business off to X?
Actually, this is one of my unique pieces of irony. There is a law by the Canadian version of the FCC. If Bernie doesn't mention standard operational procedures with him or a guest at least 5 times a month, he can lose his license. But no, actually, interestingly enough, not this book, but something that really, really interests me is if your name is on the door, whether it's jerrytheelectrician.com or Wayne's Restaurant, can you teach and train your clients and your employees why it matters? Other than that, you're just a slave to your job, period. And it dies when you die. It's just that simple. It isn't about this book, but the tools are in there to take. Scale ups aren't really dealt with, but they are giving you the tools to do it. Ironically enough, there's a wrinkle here. In this book, there's a secretive plant takeover where a large plant is being bought out by a large firm. So 1,000 people might be in siege. Can you relate to that? What happens and how it intervenes to the individual person having the double double is part of the rule. It's part of what we explain, that you have agency. If I could get only one thing out of this entire podcast, you have the agency to make changes in your life.
Excellent. So, and this I guess what I'm looking for is the person that's sitting there doesn't know they need your book, but they need your book and need your advice. What are the things they are experiencing at the moment that would be tell for them to come seek out the book?
Well, first, the reason why I wanted to write a book is a $30 decision can be wrong and not leave you crippled. No one ever said, I bought a book and now my life's ruined. Okay, so a $30 decision is easy, but there's something else. Here are the two. I want to break comfortably unhappy. If I could change anything, I would change a culture that was comfortably unhappy. Eh, eh, like in our culture, the standard answer is fine. Well, fine is a hair or a scarf. It ain't a life choice. A real big tell is I'm comfortably unhappy. I just have that whine in my life that I know something could change. And by the way, if you don't want to buy my book, buy Jack Canfield's Success Principles. It's another $30. It'll change your life. That's beside the point. That's a tell. The other thing is if the people closest to you go, what's up? If your guy at the next desk you just don't seem with it today. That's a good tell. If you're on your third divorce, that's a good tell. There are tells.
So, what would be one mantra you could leave with people's thoughts for resilience? What would be the one thing, if you had to have not necessarily a life preserver, but if you had a cornerstone, what would be the one thing you want them to keep in mind to be resilient to the issues at hand?
Well, I'm going to give you I'm going to give you two answers. One of them came from Jack Canfield, is that people at events change their life. If I hadn't been in that car accident, I would have. If I hadn't got fired, I would have. If I had not picked this city, I would have. The bottom line is you own the results. You don't only what happened to you, but you choose what happens after what happens to you. You always can do something with the results. So that is one of the biggest keys. There's one more that I use humor as resilience, and some other use a faith community where you believe there's a purpose, an overall sense that this isn't random. And then again, there's dyslexic who stayed up all night wondering if there is a dog. Sorry. But anyway, so that's it. Having a sense that there's a reason for this and a sense that you own the results from what you do with this. Those are the two. And having Wayne as your coach. I think we have to add that.
So, Wayne, if someone wants to get a sense of who you are, other than reaching out to you and through your link and on your website, what groups are you available in where they can kind of see you talk and have a chance to connect with you and to get to know you?
Wow, what an opportunity. I love it when the pitch is slow and across the base. I'm involved with Bernie in something called East Trade Winds, which started out as a networking club and is now way more. It's now 20 friends getting together from all over the world, and it has almost no risk. You get to show a little bit of you without, as the saying goes, getting naked. The second thing is I'm very involved in the faith community, so I think that's very, very real. We're also working on a project called the Candid Growth Network, or CGN, that could become very exciting to the Canadian entrepreneur, and it's very much a work in process.
So, Wayne, if everybody is like we've talked about East Trade Winds and the Canada Growth Network, how do folks reach you? How do they connect with you? How do they find the elixir of wisdom?
Wow. First, again, freshlybrewedcoaching.com is a great place to start. Okay. Even the website before you buy gives you a taste. One of my websites is waynepratt.ca. So if you want to spend a half an hour, there's some tools there too, waynepratt.ca. The third is LinkedIn, as he mentioned. Bernie loves LinkedIn. And that's it. Those are the ways. I also recommend trying to decide somehow, finding out what you want so that when you talk to a coach, me or someone else, we don't have to do that 1 hour date where we try to pull out what you want. You already know what you want. So you save it on my website, waynepratt.ca, where there's a mission statement generator, so you at least know what the goals might be, so that when you do talk to a coach, the first half an hour isn't just a bad date.
Wayne, I want to say thank you for being a guest, and you, the Knack for Business listeners, for taking the time listening to this chat. Freshly Brewed Coaching is available online, and you can buy the book. And the book itself is a hard copy, so you can order it. And Wayne turns your quiet frustrations into forward motion. And so if you're feeling stuck or jammed up, Wayne's there. He can usher you along and help you refocus so you have success. And so that if anything that's happened in the past is giving you hangups, he can help you get around them.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVISIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space. Then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner, and Wayne Pratt from Motive8U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.